development and venture capital that a lot of us don't have. And yeah, I'm just the guy with the beard and the sock puppets. So the point there actually is that my business cards say support engineer, and that's what Ostaro pays me to do. So compliance has gotten to the point where I'm working with Ostaro customers, I'm working with my personal clients, and compliance has gotten to the point that none of us, no matter where we are, how deep we are in the trenches, can ignore this stuff. And we're only looking at the obvious things that are hitting us. Usual disclaimers. A couple of people on the panel maybe don't have their corporate affiliations listed. There's a reason for that. Google will solve it, but we are speaking for ourselves, not for our families, as it says there, or siblings. I'm not speaking for my son. He's hiding somewhere. The dog will back me up, but that's only because she wants to ride in the pickup truck when I get home. Opinions are our own. Facts are as we see them. Usual disclaimers. We're not lawyers, even if we were, we wouldn't be. I am an asshole, but I am not your asshole. So on. So, quickly, PCI at a HackerCon. We want an honest discussion. There have been some love fests. There have been some uninformed rants. We hope this will be neither of these. And also, even though we're talking about PCI, we're talking about compliance in general. PCI is just the one that almost everyone gets hammered with. It touches everyone one way or another. And so that's the one we're focusing on here. So a couple of ground rules. We do want your opinion. We do want to hear questions. We just ask that you think before you speak. We don't want this to be a religious discussion.
Maybe just a bit.
Maybe a little religion. It is Sunday morning, so a little religion is okay. Can I get an amen? Amen. All right.
Amen.
Amen.
Jesus.
Hitting below the belt is okay because most of us keep our wallet below the belt, and PCI and compliance in general are hitting us there. I guess that last one is redundant at this point, welcoming schmooballs. With that, we have a couple of talking points, and I think let me put Josh up on the screen, see if we can do the magic of technology, and let him start off with some inflammatory comments for. Come on, where's the screen?
Yay!
So there's Josh, and one of the things before he launches in that I want you to think about the money of compliance is that a lot of people here make a living out of security, and if we reduce security to compliance, then I can have a sock puppet with a pen fill in check boxes, and we don't need to be here ourselves, and that means we don't get budget to come to Shmoocon. So this is significant stuff. So Josh, why don't you say something inflammatory?
Something inflammatory.
Thank you. Okay, Mike.
Thank you,
How's
Josh,
my
very
audio?
much.
Okay. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. All right. So, hopefully you can hear this. The debate really started when I jokingly said, in fact, a little bit of background here. Chris Hoff and I are members of the Institute for Applied Network Security, and we do a bunch of roundtables in 6 cities a year with CISOs. And it turns into some griping, it turns into some venting, but it's very raw, it's very real. It's not ivory tower, it's not armchair philosopher, it's what's really plaguing security professionals. And we did a track we called, a 2-day course we called Security Game Changers, where we talked about what's working, what's not, what would a tabula rasa approach to security be. And people really stretched outside of their comfort zones and came up with some pretty creative and more efficient and less expensive ways to approach security. And at the end of the whole thing, someone raised their hand and said, "Damn it, but PCI still makes me do it the other way." So we jokingly said at the morning keynote that PCI was the devil, and it doesn't mean that I fervently hold that belief. It was more like from the Water Boy, so tolerate this sound clip.
Because little girls are the devil. It's one of the many tools of the devil.
Hopefully that came through, but that was really a joke, more to vent our frustration. It was cathartic. But later I put some more thought to it, and I said, it's probably not the devil, but it's probably like the No Child Left Behind Act. And, the spirit behind No Child Left Behind was, wow, we have a problem in the education system. Let's make the dumb kids smarter. One of the challenges is in the effort to make the dumb kids smarter, we really dumb down the system. The truth is there's a bell curve for any population, and there's the people that are negligent, and I think that PCI really helps the people that are negligent. There's the people that were doing a pretty okay job, and maybe it's a net neutral impact. Maybe it's a little bit positive, a little bit negative. But then there are people who are actually doing a decent job, and those were the people 200 at a time in these different cities that were really getting pretty frustrated that, yeah, they have a security budget, but it's only for the things that Visa and Amex and the other PCI Council overlords encourage them to do. So it's not that I think we should make PCI go away. I think compliance is here to stay. And it's not even, again, just to Mike's point, it's not about PCI per se. It's just compliance in general may be ill-fitting for the profession that this room knows and loves. So my fundamental arguments are, number one, you have an incredibly static approach to an incredibly dynamic and evolutionary problem. And that's a fundamental misfit. Number two is it really focuses us myopically on a small subset of the overall security controls. And that's being rewarded and punished economically. So if you're anointed and your control, like a web app firewall, is deemed in scope for PCI, you probably saw a budget last year. You probably got sales last year. If you had something more advanced for something like advanced persistent threats, Aurora, or advanced persistent adversaries, or something outside the bounds of PCI or other compliance mandates, you kind of had a hard time. And to summarize this whole thing, essentially, I'm pretty concerned that we're economically punishing innovation. And if PCI is doing a good thing by raising the bar for the negligent, that's fantastic. But to judge the efficacy of the system, to judge if this is a social menace or a social benefit, we have to look at the overall impact. And I'm seeing from my catbird seat, I'm seeing the VC community, the innovators, the M&A activity, the financial results of hundreds of security companies. And it's pretty scary. PCI and compliance was the #1 driver of security spending last year. And since vendors chase the dollars and the VCs chase the dollars, everyone's roadmaps and innovation and investment is going towards fairly antiquated legacy controls that are PCI or compliance mandated. What does that say when we need the innovation to keep up with threats and evolutions like Aurora? Not being FUD, not being sensationalist. The people in this room know better than anybody. You know, most of my work last year and the year before, even at IBM and ISS, was doing stuff with high-profile targets, espionage-type stuff, very sophisticated custom malware. Someone needs to be innovating for them, and if we don't balance our investment of compliance dollars with actual risk management or actual threat prevention dollars, I fear that we're going to see the money dry up, we're going to see the innovation dry up, and we might as well go back to sock puppets. So that's my intro comments. The bow I put on top is it's kind of messed up that we now fear the auditor more than the attacker.
Cool. Thank you. So I guess then let's step back a little bit and try to figure out how we got here. Where did PCI come from? And I've done a couple of talks where I've called out PCI, but there are two things about PCI. There's a lot of good about it, there's a lot of bad. One of the things that's actually right about PCI, and we can argue motives, but it's an industry driven. Granted, it's one end of the industry driving another end of the industry, but it is not people who think a series of tubes legislating this. There is a danger because people think we should turn PCI into law. And Nevada is codifying it and who knows what's going on. But what do you think, Mike? Would you like to address a little background on PCI, how we got here, since rumor has it you have some inside knowledge of PCI?
Yeah, so my name's Mike. I've been working with this for quite a long time, primarily from the aspect of helping develop some of the standards as well as doing a lot of training and education globally on this. So just to give us a little background of where we got, how we got to where we are today, right? There's the story that we've all heard, which is that the payment card industry got together and decided that they want to proactively address this type of a risk and threat to our organization to protect our credit card information, and then the world's perceived concept of personally identifiable information. But realistically, we have to remember that what we really care about here are dollars. And so how did we get here today? Well, there's an organization, there's a number of banks that exist, right? There's the banks that give you the cards, and there's the banks that accept those payment transactions. And for the longest time, all of the fraud that we saw was happening on what's called the acquiring side of the bank, or where you are using your card going to those organizations. The problem is that when your credit